Well, what's the crack? How are you getting on? You're all very welcome to episode 140 of Buckshot. Ben Jesus. Today is the 17th of April 2020. Well, I'm keeping my voice down because I'm downstairs. I don't want to wake the dog because she'll go fucking batshit crazy. And herself and the child are asleep upstairs. And who needs that on their case? I'm just getting this intro done because I recorded today's episode earlier in the week. This is going out immediately now at 12:15 at night. The rest of you will probably have it in the morning, whoever's working through the night shift or just drinking themselves in a dark corner. Yeah, and if you're a Patreon, you'll get this right now. My thanks to the brand new Patreons that came on board with Fiona, Aaron, Sarah, Gorda from those conspiracy guys jumped on, and Jamesy just jumped on today. Did a quick video for Jamesy's buddy over in the US of A. Because out of nowhere, they're fans of Bridget Neyman. Who would have thunk it? But I realised Bridget Neyman was on Gold, I think, which is filmed in America, which I can only imagine is taken quite weirdly, being a nostalgic look at 80s Ireland. Huh? Speaking of Gordo, I was on a live chat last Friday with Gordo and a gang of his patrons, and not just patrons, but listeners. I came on because I'm a patron of his page, and we talked for 3 to 4 hours about Tiger King. Don't worry, lads, I had beer. So that will be over on those conspiracy website if you want to go over. And yeah, it should be up in the next few days, I would imagine. He'll put up the audio from that. So it got me thinking, rather than doing the Instagram bullshit live, you know what I mean, where people dip in, dip out, you know, it's people that don't really want to be there, people aren't notified about it. I put it up to the Patreons and I put it out on Twitter. Who would fancy coming on board? Because I can do live on Facebook, Twitter, and this other one called Get Vocal. And Get Vocal will be open season to the Patreons. They can come on and actually show their face and have visible, mouthy conversations with me. And to the live Facebook, live Twitter, that will be open to anybody who wants to just throw in comments. And I'll throw the comments back out there. So I'm going to do it next Monday night because I'm in the middle of writing this thing. That's why I didn't get a ramble pod out this week. And also I'm recording with Owen as well. So I'm editing that podcast. So it'll be next Monday. Monday being, let me just tell you now, 27th. The 27th. So stick it in the diary. I'm going to do it at 9 o'clock at night. The 27th. I'll put it up on all usual platforms so everybody will find out where it's going to be. And like I said, the Patreons will be able to get through. So if you want to go as a one-time Patreon, jump on, throw a couple of dollars in the ring. We'll do an hour. I'll put up the subjects and it's a ramble pod. So people, I'll put it out there as examples of my situation and see what anybody else wants to come at me with. And as you can tell, I'm okay to read out loud. So I will read as best I can. Let's all have a drink. Why not? And get through with it. Like I said, thanks very much again. If you don't follow me, if it's your first time listening, you wonder, what the fuck is he talking about? Tom O'Mahony Comedy will find me anywhere. Chatty Snaps. Oh, Jesus Christ. I'll talk about this on Monday. I think I might have to get rid of Snapchat. It's Tom Bear O'Mahony on that. I know a lot of lads and lasses send me stuff on chat, but I'm getting too many dick pics, man. I know. What the fuck? From blokes. And it's not just one. Like, there's about 5 blokes keep on fucking sending me, hey, can I ask your opinion? Out of the blue. You're like, no, you, oh, for fuck, gotta block another one. So, there is a merch shop as well, people. The link will be in the show notes. I apologise because it pops up weird in Spotify. If you're listening to Spotify, I apologise because for some reason the merch link, even though they're really far apart everywhere else, the merch link seems to merge with the Patreon link. So Tom O'Mahony Buckshot will find it on Patreon. So if you type in Tom O'Mahony, I'm the only one in Patreon. So either way, you'll find it there. There's merch shop with loads of stuff. You want to go ahead, jump on. If you want to become a one-time patron, do. And we'll have the fucking crack this Monday with the Royal Ramble is what I'm calling it. I'm half coining that. Came together with Gordo talking about. We had a long conversation on Friday or Saturday after Friday night show, and it was coined in that conversation. I can't say where, but it's the Royal Ramble. So do jump on board. Let's not be just weird me sitting in a room by myself. I think a couple of people came back immediately and were like, absolutely, I'm all over this. So we all have a lot of time in our hands. Let's do it. Next Monday, the 27th at 9 o'clock. I'll put the link up there so you can actually see through to where it is. It'll be on the Get Vocal website. VOKL, I think is what it is, as vocal. Sure, why wouldn't it be? Now, pressing on. What else have I to tell you? Sure, I've loads to be telling you. Do I fuck? I actually do. Who knew missing a week of the Ramble Pod, I would end up building up a ton of stuff to talk about. So I will talk about that on the Royal Ramble. I'm going to move on to today's guest. Guys. Today's guest is a long-term friend. Long-term, like we were put together. Long-time friend in comedy. He moved to the UK years ago. We found out the exact dates and all the rest of it. He, like Keith Fox, had an old touch of the old testicular cancer. Wrote a show about it. And had the fucking crack to talk about it and all the rest of it. Talked about his tiny hands. He doesn't actually have tiny hands, but he has tiny hands. You'll find out if you listen to it. It was a great old chat, great catch-up. It was a lovely catch-up. Now, a couple of cups of tea would have gone down very well. It was a lovely, lovely catch-up. Conor lives in London, and he is a fantastic sound skin. Very thoughtful fella. So, sit back, enjoy the fantastic Conor Drum. All right, lovely stuff. Conor Drum. How are you keeping? How are you holding it together? Is it 28 days later over there? Is it?
It's not quite. How are you, Tom? Thanks for having me. By the way, this is an honour. I've listened to a fair few episodes of Bookshot, and I'm glad to be among the ranks of some of the guests that you've had up there. So that's great. It's like 28 days later if the zombies are just people walking slowly in tandem in a park. And yeah, it's fine. I'm over here in London. I'm up in North London at the moment, and yeah, look, we're not exactly going to war. You know what I mean? I mean, all the analogies of this, you know, we were in this together and all this crap. It's like you're fucking sitting on your hole. Like that's all you have to do. It's not. Like I've been practicing for years. You know, I'm coming into my own on this. No, it's fine. I've been eating. I don't know about you, but I've been eating a lot more and yeah, it's at Christmas levels of boozing. Like that's kind of calmed down a bit after the initial shock. But the Christmas, it was literally like fucking, you know, almost every evening. Like I'll just have a beer with dinner, you know. And I wouldn't normally do that. I try and only drink a couple of nights a week at most. But I don't know about you, but Thursday night feels very much like it's now Friday. And like my plan was to go only have a drink on Friday and Saturday, maybe just do that, or maybe Sunday. But now it's just like definitely Thursday. Thursday's like, you've got this far, have yourself a drink. It's grand. And I'm doing that Zoom meetings. You know, the Zoom. Have you done that yet? The Zoom drinks?
I've done the Zoom. Well, I've done podcasts with Zoom, all right, where everybody is having a drink, but it isn't just, I haven't done an established sesh. But they sound actually like a bit of crack.
Yeah, I had my birthday last month on it. And yeah, look, it's not...
That's the saddest thing in the world. It's the saddest thing in the world.
It's not ideal, but like, you know, like we were saying before, it's not like it's 15 years ago. You know, imagine there was no Netflix. Imagine you had to rely on books for your entertainment. Yeah. Forget about it. You know? But yeah, the Zoom drinks is actually all right. Like, but the problem is you're your own barman, and you know, there's something about drinking in a pub, the ritual to it, like getting up and getting around, you know, it takes a bit more time. There's, you know, and you think about it because it's costing you, you know, 4 or 5 quid or whatever it is for a pint. You know, you're not going to lash it into you. You're going to think about it a little bit more. You're going to enjoy it a little bit more. Obviously, after you have a few, you kind of forget it. Whereas at home, it's just cracking into the cans, and the only barman is the door of the fridge. Do you know what I mean? And plus, there's no walk home. And the journey home from the pub is actually cleansing in a way. That actually does a fair bit towards preventing the hangover, I think. Whereas now, you just like literally close the laptop and lie down in bed. It's that. So, yeah, I've had a few severe hangovers during this.
What's your drink of choice during a Zoom meeting then, or a Zoom session?
I just have a few beers. You know?
You're not trying to get sophisticated and drink wine and fucking... Or do you know, should it go to full hog, drink cans for like 3 hours and then take a break as if you're all sitting in a taxi, and then get to a Zoom nightclub and then start having fucking weird drinks?
Yeah, just start having. Yeah, imagine doing shots on your own in your house. I mean, that's when you know you have a problem. Like, mind
Somebody
you,
had.
there's no doubt. I've never ever enjoyed shots. Like I've never, like I've done it and I've gone along with the flow and I've agreed to them, but I've never gone, that was a good idea. We had a great time, didn't we? Because you don't remember, like you do it and then you don't feel the effects for 20 minutes. And next thing you know, you're, paraplegic or paralytic on the ground. But yeah, no, the drinking at home, I'll be honest with you, I love a glass of wine, red wine with a movie or something like that. Now, when I say glass, I mean probably a bottle. Once it's open, it's getting...
Big fucking glass.
Once it's opened, it's getting drank. But I actually enjoy that as I've gotten older. Like I love that. Like I love the pub. So yeah, like I say, Zoom isn't quite. It's not quite going to the pub or whatever, but it's a decent enough alternative. It beats the phone or texting.
Yeah.
And that's
More of the radio DJ had suggested that somebody, and I think he did this maybe, he said this maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, and somebody was on it already. Apparently there's VR now, and it's you can pick your style of pub and you can meet mates in there, so you can see your little virtual hand, like your little tiny hands, drinking pints.
So what you need there to really add to it is maybe just like piss against the wall or something and throw some beer on the ground, some fag butts, to get the smell as well, the atmosphere, But yeah, that's a good idea. Like it is, it's, there's one thing I always used to think about, when you watched cartoons and movies as a kid, what the people who were predicting the future always got wrong was that, well, what I thought was interesting was that they always had like computers or faces talking, like, you talk into your watch and see your man's face. And then texting came along and people weren't arsed. They'd rather just keep it quite simple, short texts, communicate that way. And now this face-to-face stuff has come into its own when we actually do need a bit of contact,
It's funny yeah.
By the way, I realize I mightn't be making much sense because I think it's the first time I've talked out loud to someone in 2 days. So that can happen as well.
Even we were talking beforehand, you've incrementally gotten louder and louder. You were whispering nearly when I spoke to you at first, and just over the last 15 minutes or whatever of chit chat, you're actually speaking like you normally speak. Earlier, you sounded like you were hiding in some woman's wardrobe from her husband. You sounded
well. I think it's because the headphones are starting to work now, and I can't tell how loud I'm being. I've got a loud voice, by the way, it's quite annoying. I'm the guy in the pub that people will look at and go, well, that I would look at and go, that fucking idiot, shut up. Like, you don't realize you got a loud voice, how annoying it is. But I notice people's other voices. Like, I notice people's voices a lot and think that guy is a loud, or that girl is a loud fucker, and I'm one of.
Yeah, no, I've heard myself back. I'm an obnoxious laugh, like an obnoxious. But I mean no harm by it. I'm enjoying the moment or whatever. But it's like, it's fucking dreadful.
When you hear someone laughing really loudly in a pub or even a social situation, and you're not quite in the mood. Well, I don't know about you, but I always think to myself, nothing is that funny. Nothing is that funny.
You're spot on.
Yeah, what the fuck is that guy laughing at? Nothing's that funny. I noticed this as well, which is a phenomenon. I'm living over here in London now for 8 years or so, 9 years. And I've noticed it was English housemates. Some of them, not all of them. They laugh at the TV. I mean, and I'm not just...
Yeah.
I'm not like... I'll laugh very, very occasionally if I'm on my own. Something has to tickle me just right for me to laugh out loud. And it would only be a bit of a ha-ha and I'm moving on. I've caught housemates just sitting in front of the TV laughing at jokes that are written for, I don't know, God, like just literally laughing at Saturday Night Takeaway out loud, like clapping and everything. You're like, what's going on? What is going on? And then maybe I'm in the wrong game because I'm a miserable bastard. Like nothing, like I said, nothing's that funny. But yeah, what was I going to say? Like the lockdown's fine. It's. I think it was Saturday. I went out for a walk, a big long walk, and I was pissed off because I was just thinking like the weather's lovely, and when is it going to pass? When's the shit weather going to pass? And then I thought, that's a horrible thought to have. And then I was thinking, God, I'd love to just go for a pint. Like, I'd love to have somewhere to go. I need, but you got to remind yourself, like, it isn't the end of the world. It's only a few weeks. It's going to be another while. Like, and we've got the internet to keep us company. But if the internet wasn't around, then it would be.
Then I say the Vigo Marks in the road, basically searching for seeds and whatever else you can find. Like, it's going to be. Yeah. I think we're okay. Once we booze and we're the internet, I think we're okay. And the weather has picked up as well. Like, if this is after happening in November, fuck those.
I prefer it in a way because the option is then taken away of going outside. Like, when I look out the window and I see a crack sunny day, I think to myself, well, I can think of several things I can't do today.
Yeah.
That's maybe I'm getting depressed. But no, I look out the window and if it's hot weather, I go, well, I can't go and have a few cans or a few pints in the pub or outside. The lovely standing outdoors, the best pints. Or just go and meet some friends and just have a laugh, just chilling. But I play a lot of computer games as well because I'm a child, and thank God for them. Like, I just escape into being a cowboy, right? Riding on a horse for a day. Like, that's my afternoon.
I couldn't. I had to give up video games a few years back because I had a desperate problem. As soon as I would get into something like that, like FIFA or anything, never really interested me too much. But as soon as any kind of shoot 'em ups or the James Bond ones or even. But when I saw around Christmas, like, those lads, I was working in a show down in Limerick, and the lads brought in the PlayStation, and one of the lads had Red Dead. I said, I can't even look at it because that to me is fucking beautiful. I can't. Yeah. I need to avoid that. It's like staying away from titty bars. You know what I mean? You just cannot let the door even open a fucking fraction.
Well, it's. Yeah, I mean, there are times like I've knuckled down now and really put the graft into it. Like, I really put a lot of time into this now. I've invested because before you know it, you're 3 hours sitting there. Like, but I find it relaxing. Like, I find it almost like meditation. Like, it takes my mind off things. It's completely anxiety blocker. Like, but if you have a kid like yourself or a relationship. Because my girlfriend's in her parents' house at the moment, because she's looking after them. So I don't have that concern at the moment. So my only concern is...
When did you last see her?
Over a month ago.
Wow.
Yeah, her mother, you see, was in hospital. And it's interesting, actually, the difference between the UK and Ireland. Like, her mother's was in a high dependency ward. And... I remember I went off to do a gig. The last gig I did was like on the 10th of March, I think, or the 11th. And it was in Birmingham. And her mother was in hospital in Guildford. And she was staying in a hotel next to the hospital so she could visit the mother. The dad's too old to go and visit, and the brother isn't able. So it was basically all relying on her. So I stayed with her as much as I could. And then I went off to do this gig, and on the way back, like, I just remember thinking to myself, I was going back to my place because it was I had some stuff to get. And when I arrived back, I thought, you know what, I don't think it's a good idea after being around all those people at the gig and the mother being so sick. Like, I wouldn't want to take the risk. So I rang her up and I said, listen, I think it's not a good idea I come up because, I just don't want to take it's too much of a chance. And she said, have you got any symptoms? I said, no. She goes, well, look, it doesn't really matter then because the woman in the bed next to my mother has had 10 people to visit yesterday and another 10 today, kids and all. I mean, this is a month ago, and it's a high dependency ward. So I said, I don't know, I'm still, so I ended up not going, but it was only another 4 or 5 days before, or 3 or 4 days before the hospital finally stopped having big groups of people to visit. Like, they're a week or two behind Ireland with all this stuff.
Oh yeah.
But, like, it's crazy. And then eventually they stopped about 3 weeks ago now, they stopped visitors coming all together, which was always in the post, as you can imagine. But now people are starting to catch it in the hospital, a lot of people. And they want to move the mother out of the hospital, even though she's absolutely not well enough, just because the risk is getting so high. She literally picked the worst time in modern history to get sick. Like, the worst possible time. The whole thing is just insane. I mean, it's. Do you remember when the last recession happened? In 2008 or so. You could talk to people about it. You talk to your parents, and they'd be like, "Well, the recession in the '80s was a lot worse," or whatever. There's no talking to anyone about this. No one has a breeze what's going on. No one has a clue. Everyone's just like, I'm scared, and I don't. And particularly parents' generation. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're the ones who are in danger from this more than anyone. So the whole thing is just unbelievable. And then the change of perspective it's going to give us all and stuff like that. So anyway, I haven't seen her in a month now. So she's up looking after her dad. She can't visit the mother who is still in hospital. So it's all pretty tough on her, And the hardest thing I have to do is try and cut myself down to 4 meals a day as opposed to 5.
And there was no temptation to fly back home, was there?
No, because I think the internet connection in my mother's house isn't that great. Plus, I'd have to, like, much as I love much as I love my mother, I don't want to move back in with her unnecessarily. She's got 2 lodgers in the house, so and the dog, which I'm quite jealous of. I'd love to have the dog here now. And so she's all right. And I've got 3 sisters back in Dublin. But yeah, a few people said it to me, would you not come back? Would you not be safer here? And I think if push came to shove, like if you were to get very sick from it, and touch wood, I or no one I know or you or anyone will, but I think you'd be in the same boat no matter what happens, Ireland or the UK, if you have to go to hospital, you have to go to hospital.
You moved, you said 8 years ago. Was it for comedy you moved?
Yeah, I started doing comedy. It'll be 10 years ago, I think, this year that I started doing comedy. Like everyone at 5 minutes in the Battle of the Axe and stuff. And my first gig went badly. I got in a fight on stage.
I'd be raging if you said anything else.
God, I was but I was doing because I was always funny, or at least I always thought I was, or was told I was a lot, and I was always writing and stuff. And I'd been doing acting and things like that, and I'll be honest, I was too scared to do comedy. I couldn't, I knew I wanted to do it, and I'd been thinking about it for literally years. And then eventually I remember my housemate was going out with Des Bishop. And he's like, you should be doing comedy, man. You should be doing comedy. And I was like, not because he thought I was funny or anything, just because he goes, if you have an inkling or you're doing all this other stuff, you should be doing it. And then he said, he actually gave me some good advice. He goes, I'll do 1 and see how it goes. And he said, no, do 5. Do 5 and see how the 5 go, and then make a decision. So I worked, I just booked myself in. Because I just the way you book yourself in with Tony at the Battle of the Axe, and then I think I booked in July, and the gig wasn't until October. And the hardest bit of stand up is the difference between being the funny guy and being funny on stage. Because being the funny guy in the pub or in a party is quite easy in a way, because you get to pick and choose your moments. You can come up with killer lines and then sink back into the into the background, Whereas with stand up, you are talking the whole time, and I kind of didn't quite manage to. I had written a set which was okay, but I'd done stuff like there was long pauses, like things that you shouldn't really do until you're a little bit more.
I love this, like you're fucking George Carlin up there, like.
Oh yeah, like just because I was looking at other people going, look, because that's the other thing. If you want to, if anyone wants to do stand up, go and thinks they can't, go and see an open mic night, and it will be the most inspiring thing you ever do, because you're like, Jesus, I'm pretty sure I can do better than that lad. You know what I mean? But I made so many, so many big rookie mistakes. So they put you on at the end, when you're starting, and the reason they do that, I think, is because for some reason, people bring their friends when they're doing stand-up for the first time, and they want you and your friends to stick around to watch the show. I don't know what would motivate anyone to bring friends to their first ever gig. Maybe it's ignorance. I think it was ignorance, because I remember having 2 friends coming myself, and I made several rookie errors. The first and biggest mistake I made was, instead of sitting around the back of the stairs where everyone sits, And they're waiting to go on. There was no real space there. I didn't know anyone. So I just sat at the bar. Now, for those of you who haven't been there, the bar is practically on top of the stage. So I'm sitting beside the bar on a stool for the whole show. And then 10, 12 acts filter through, and then they bring on me, the final act. And it's like, welcome to stage, Conor Drum. And I just sort of jump up from the bar and go, hey, and just...
Like Dean Martin.
Like
the bar, Mr. Conor Drum, everybody.
Because it's but it's like there is a sort of a stagecraft to it. Like the fact that you come, like that you disappear, or you just appear from the back of the room. Like it's a little bit of mystery to it. But then if it's just this bloke who we've watched drinking for the past 2 hours, it's not quite. So the magic is kind of worn down a little bit. Anyway, I go on. And straight away, like almost immediately, like I'm just like, oh fuck! And I can't remember my first joke was something like I share a house with people and blah blah blah. And it's not a busy gig. I get a couple of titters, but there's this one bloke in the front, and I remember he was wearing his big fat lads, big beard and pasty skin covered in tattoos.
Are you sure it wasn't another comedian? Because you just painted a picture of about 20 comedians I can think of.
No, well, maybe he was. Maybe he was disgruntled. I don't know. He wasn't. I haven't seen him since. And he was a bit pissed. And he was wearing. I remember he was wearing a Brazil football jersey. And I thought, this is a man who has certainly watched a lot of football, but I doubt has ever partaken in. And I have this bit, and it was something about like I go a bit quiet for a moment, and the moment I went quiet, he just starts going, "You're a posh cunt. You're a posh cunt." Just kept saying it. I just didn't know it, because you're in your mind and all you're thinking to yourself is like, I just need to get through this set. I just need to get through this set. Like I need to just do these jokes and then get off. And like you practice for days and weeks, months. And he's thrown me completely off it. And in my head, I'm just thinking, why are you doing this to me? Like, and in fact, I think I even said that at one point. I said, why are you doing this? Like, this is my first time doing it. Why are you rooting for me? Is it because you're a posh cunt? You're a posh cunt. And I just kept saying it. And I just got, I was like, well, what are you then, you fat fuck? And next thing you know, we're fucking shouting at each other. And this is like the gig. And next thing you know, he stands up and just starts like pushing things over. And then someone has to push him down. And I'm just standing there with the microphone, just kind of like the feedback noise is starting to happen. It was an absolute car crash. And then afterwards, like, he came up to me and sort of apologized. And I'm like, what do you apologize? And then he told me to, call me posh again. It was just the most bizarre. Like anyone else, I think, with a bit of sense might have gone, do you know what? I don't want to do that again. But I sort of took it as, I think I could do better. If that guy wasn't there, I might have had gotten away with it today. And I did another gig. Like
some would call it a sickness, Conor, to continue with stand-up.
Well, there's definitely...
The amount of people whose first gigs were similar to that one, me included. And we still continued with it. You went for another one after that.
It's a hunger for attention. It's a low self-esteem thing maybe as well. It's a need to be heard. I don't know what it's something anyway. I went and I did another one as soon as I could. I was like, I emailed your man Tony and I said, I really want to get back as quick. He's like, yeah, no problem. Get you back as soon as we can. 2 months later. So, but I was hungry to do it. So I went and did it and it went a lot better. And then the third one went even better. And then, I think I think my 8th gig, I did the Comedy Crunch and I have a film of it. Like, and Danny and all those lads, I think had been going a year at that stage. And I had the thing where a lot of people beginning comedy have, and I certainly did. It's the thing where you think you know what you're talking about, and it's just I didn't really because I met some older, more established comedians at that time, and I remember like telling them what I thought of things, and them just going, yeah, whatever, and me thinking, God, they're rude. Like, there's no need. I'm just thinking, no, I totally understand what's going on. Like I've got this problem where I give people unsolicited advice. Like I shouldn't do it because people get offended by it sometimes, and I don't mean like it's honestly out of like I'm doing it out of from
a good place, Conor.
Yeah, I'm not like Like, I remember, who was it? I can't remember who I pointed. I'll hear someone set and go, that was really good. I really like that. That bit you did about thing. Would you think about X? Or maybe what about blah, blah, blah? And then I've learned to tone that down because people just don't want to fucking hear it. I want to hear it though. And I think that's possibly why I do it, or at least have had a problem with, because I don't mind when someone comes up and goes, I like that bit. Maybe if you should think about this. Now, if what they've said I disagree with, then that's one thing, but I won't get upset by it. And some people are just so confident in what they're doing, and you're like, you just need to shut the fuck up. Like, what you really need to do if you want to be gigging around here is you need to understand that. You're like, listen, okay. The last time I was back at the Battle of the Axe, I was hosting it. And it was about a year ago. I was back in Dublin for a week, and I filled up with a week of gigs, and one of the gigs was hosting the Battle of the Axe. And it was the big change I'd noticed from when I'd started. And God bless, I feel sorry for anyone starting comedy now because there's so many people doing it. Like I'm one of them. Like, you know what I mean? And you're one of them. Like there's just so many people who have been going and are still going, and then there's so many people just more and more and more and more coming in. But the one thing I did notice is when I started, I didn't want to talk to the audience at all because I didn't want to let them in, because I had my little script in my head of things I wanted to say. And if I opened the door to them coming into it, they could ruin that script and throw me. But when I was hosting the battle a while ago, or last year, there was about 10 acts on, and almost every single one of them went straight into the audience, straight in with that. How's everyone doing? Where are you from? And it's like, dude, you've just seen me do that for 10 minutes. Like that's not your job, kind of thing, Yeah. And then I remember saying to one guy, one guy asked me, this is the thing. This is the weirdest thing ever. Have you got this before? So you get asked for some advice, then you give the advice, then they begin to argue with you, and you're like, what's going? Like one guy was asking, like, what should I do? What do you think of this? What do you think of that? Now who am I to tell anyone? But I just said, well, I think this or that. And then he said, well, what do you think of my set? And I said, I thought it was really good. I think this thing is good, and maybe that thing. I said, but you don't need to talk to the audience as much because, you've only got 5 minutes. So you should focus on making that 5 minutes the best possible 5 minutes it can be. And that's how you get ahead. And he just went, but that's just what I do. And I went, okay. And he was like, but that's part of my act. And I went, yeah, okay. And then the thing I used to do, did you used to do this? When I started out with the 5 minutes thing, because everyone starts out doing 5 minutes. And I remember thinking, that's not enough time for me. I need more time because I'm more of a storyteller. That was my whole thing. Like I used to kept saying to myself, like, I'd be like, I need 5 minutes isn't enough. And it's like, you're not understanding the principle of the stand-up here. The whole idea is to learn how to be funny in that 5 minutes, because 5 minutes is a fucking long time if you're not being funny.
I think I was frightened to go over. I don't know. It was like somebody had mentioned it to me, and I cannot remember who, that you're basically fucking a terrible person if you go over your time.
Oh yeah, no. I totally had that.
I was fucking shitting it to even go a second over. So I agree. I was going, how could possibly anybody be funny in 5 minutes? Man, if you're good, you can be funny in 5 seconds.
Right. But that's the thing, that you have to learn that. Now, I always did, I was same as you, I never wanted to go over, but I just thought to myself, I'll get better when I have more time. And it's like, but you won't get to the point of being given more time until you get better at the 5 minutes kind of thing. It's a vicious cycle. And to be fair, I would prefer a little bit more time than 5 minutes. But yeah, if you need to master the skill of having a short, tight set, and it takes fucking ages. Like, it takes ages to do properly. It just takes ages to do properly. And I don't know about you, but I would look back at stuff, particularly over the first few years. You think you're good as well. You're doing it years. You come off and you go, yeah, that I nailed that. And it's like, it went okay. Now, to be fair, I generally did okay. I had a couple of bad gigs at the beginning, but I got pretty okay pretty quickly. I was far from being good for a long time. And the tragedy is I thought I was good. And I think maybe I made a few mistakes in the first 2 or 3 years, like getting in touch with agents and stuff. Hey, come and see me. And I luckily no one responded, but they might have actually come and seen me. And the reason I didn't hear from them is because they thought I was shite, and they would have been correct at the time.
And when did you go to England then?
Oh yeah, sorry, that's what we were talking about, wasn't it? I went over to England. It was July 2011. So 9 years ago, yeah. I had been living in Dublin my whole life. And when I was 27, I'd gotten testicular cancer. Now, I was very lucky because I caught it very early and I didn't have to have chemo or anything like that. But because of that, I was put on a monitoring thing. So I had to get monitored every 3 months. I had to be checked and stuff. And I had planned to move to London because I thought, you know what, I'm going to go for it in London. Like I'll try and make the comedy and acting and writing or whatever like happen over there, because I figured out pretty quickly that in Ireland there was only a handful of gigs and a lot of great comedians, and it's very difficult to, like, you can get a few, like you might get the Laughter Lounge if you're very lucky a couple of weekends a year, but there's lads in there who are well established that are solid acts that are going to get there ahead of you, as they should, you know.
Yeah.
So I figured there's more going on in London. There's more competition, that's for certain, but there's more opportunity as well. And I wanted to change. So once I got into about 16, 18 months after my cancer thing, my doctor told me, look, if it's not come back by now, it's probably not going to come back. And then I moved like within a few weeks of that. And I moved over with a friend of mine, who lived here already, but the day I arrived, he had decided to work in India for a few months. So that was mad. So I didn't know anyone when I first moved over. I didn't know anything about the comedy scene over there. I think at this point I've been doing stand-up for about a year and a half, maybe 2 years, I think, if I remember correct. I'd done about 20 gigs and I had a relatively passable 5 minutes. So I had done, there's open mic nights. You can do 5 of them a night in London. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I started looking for them and booking into them. And then I found myself, you know, I felt that in Ireland, I knew exactly the trajectory. I know where you wanted to go. You wanted to get that open spot in the international and eventually a paid spot. And then if you're lucky, maybe an open spot in the Laughter Lounge and then you'd be paid to do that and so on and so forth. But whereas in London, I knew that the Comedy Store was there. I knew I could do the Gong Show, but that was a dream, you know. And so I did a lot of these open spots and they were really frustrating because it was only other comics. You'd be waiting hours to get up to do 3 or 4 minutes or 5 minutes, and they'd all be doing kind of shocking stuff, as open micers tend to do. And I'd be talking about watching TV or whatever, you know, and it just found it very, very demoralizing. Yeah, I'd gotten a few open spots in some decent places, but it was really difficult. And I was in a commercial at the time that was running in Ireland, a lottery ad. A guy was playing golf off my face. Yeah, and I had this money coming to me from that ad, and I remember, like, I'd taken a part-time job in a restaurant in Soho, a busy barbecue restaurant, like really busy, really hard work, but I just took it part-time.
Did we go there? You brought me there.
We did go there, yeah, half price. And you were complaining about the quality of the cut.
I'd go all the way to London to visit Conor, and he goes, where do we take Tom? A fucking barbecue joint. That's the only thing this man will eat, yeah?
Yeah, no, you're giving out about the cut of the meat and everything. Like, you're like, jeez, what the fuck? But it was half price everything, so we ended up getting we ended up enjoying ourselves, if I remember correctly. But so I was working there and I had that money coming in, and I'd gotten myself a little part in a little sort of comedy play thing, and I booked in a whole load of like open spots, and I could afford to do it and to live that life because this $5,000 or whatever was coming from the ad, and sure didn't the agent that I was with at the time disappear off the face of the earth with the money. So I had to, it was a nightmare. So I had to cancel that little play thing I was planning to do, and I think it was going to be going up to the Fringe. I had to cancel all that, and I just had to take up more hours on in the restaurant just to keep things afloat, because, you know, rent in London is expensive and stuff. So it was a tough time. And then one day I was working in the restaurant, and at this point I'd been there about, I don't know, about 6 months, 7 months. I was working in the restaurant and a lunchtime shift, very quiet. And then into my section sits a fella, and I recognized him straight away. It was Jimmy Carr, the comedian. And, you know, if somebody famous or something like that comes into, like, they don't want you, you know, talking to them about. They want their food and they want to be left alone. And if there is an opportunity to talk to them, which I'd be happy to take, you know, you kind of have to let them lead the way in this kind of thing. Like I'll add in a cheeky comment or something like that from time to time, as you know, I'll try and have a bit of fun with them generally, but you can tell sometimes people just want to be left alone. But when he was paying the bill, he just said, "Oh, you're Irish," and I said, "Yeah," and he goes, "So am I," and I said something like, "Oh, you should tell your accent," and he went, "Oh," and started laughing, and then he said, "What are you doing here? You're not just doing this, are you?" And I said, "I'm actually doing comedy and stuff." And he goes, "Oh, right. Well, where are you? Where are you gigging?" And I said, "Well, this is the problem. Like, I'm only doing these open spots and at new material nights, and I don't know where to go. I don't know. Like, I find it a very difficult scene to navigate and stuff." And then he just goes, "Oh, we'll just go to Edinburgh." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "Just go and do the Fringe." And I said, I barely have." Like, I lied. I was like, "I've only got 20 minutes. I didn't have, if I did in the arse for 20 minutes, I'd have been in 10 minutes. I'd never been on stage for more than 10 minutes at this point. And he just went, just do Edinburgh. And I said, "Well, I don't have an hour show." And he goes, "Well, if you can't write an hour between now and Edinburgh," because at this point it was like January. He goes, "Why are you doing this?" And I said, "Yeah, that's a good point. I'm not going to argue with them." Now, to write a really good hour, yeah, you're probably not going to be able to do it in 6 months, particularly when you're at that stage. But I didn't know that. And I go, "But I've no money." And he goes, "Well, just do a free show. Email Alex Petty from the Laughing Horse. They should still be taking bookings. And just do it." And I went home that night and I thought to myself, "Do you know what? He's one of the most successful comedians there is. So I'll take his advice." So I applied on the site that night, and I think I called the show Conor Drum, A Sense of Humour, and it was like a discovery of how I'm funny or something. I can't really remember exactly what it was. And I put in an application, and a week or two later, I got an offer of a room in Broughton Street, called the Phoenix Pub. It's called something else now, and the Broughton Street is in Edinburgh, believe it or not, but it might as well be in fucking Wales. It's so far away from the... So next thing you know, like, that's it. I was doing an Edinburgh show, and I hadn't a clue. Like, I hadn't a clue what I was doing. I'd never been to Edinburgh. I remember I got in touch with I remember I was friends with Barry Mack on Facebook. Barry Mack, the comedian in Ireland. We're not friends on Facebook anymore.
He doesn't do comedy anymore, does he?
Did he ever? No, I don't. No, I remember liking his act and stuff. Anyway, I got in touch with him because I know he's the only kind of guy I knew in Dublin at the time who'd been around for a while, and so I just said something like, "I'm looking at doing Edinburgh, and I'm looking at venues and stuff, and you know, any idea what's good?" And his response was just like, "You're not ready to do Edinburgh," and I just said, "I know, but I'm going to do it anyway." And he goes, "Well, you shouldn't be doing it. I don't know." And that was it. Like, so I just said, "All right, well, I'm on my own here." Now, he wasn't wrong. I wasn't really ready to do Edinburgh, but what happened was I went and I did it anyway. So it was exciting, you know. I went up to Edinburgh, hadn't a clue, didn't know anyone at all up there. But I'd met a few lads from the Irish scene, but not like I went up my own. Was staying in some place, like I didn't know. I'd never been to Scotland, whatever. When I get to the venue, I realized, like, oh, this is something. And I had my flyers, and I'm flyering I remember as well, flyering my first gig, like, enthusiastically as well. Like, this is going to be great. And I turn a corner. I don't know if you've ever experienced this. There's nothing more demoralizing than just seeing your own face on a flyer flowing, just out of a bin, just piles of your own picture, and it's just like, oh, Christ.
It's metaphoric, is what it is.
Oh, totally. And then, like, urinals, like, they're just it's just people pissing on it. So I go down and I remember my first gig, and I managed to drag 4 people in to see me. And like I say, I'd never been on stage for more than 10 minutes before. But I do it, and like, my ideas work, and the longer form is a lot easier. You get away with a lot more in Edinburgh because you don't have to be as punchy. Well, like they say, punchy at the beginning and the end, and then just fill up the middle or whatever you want, kind of thing. And the show ends, and everyone leaves, and it goes fine. And I get like £5 in my bucket or something like that. And I say, "Fuck it, I'm onto something here," you know. And then there's this guy, and he comes up to me afterwards. He goes, "I really liked your show," and I said, "Thanks." And he goes, I'm doing a review of it, by the way. I'm a reviewer." And I was like, "What? No, don't, please don't." I didn't do this for reviews or anything like that. He was right. He was a reviewer for the Skinny, and then the next night it was the same again. 4 or 5 people turned up. One of them was a reviewer, and he was from Broadway Baby. Now, had I known how difficult it is to get reviews, like it's so hard to get reviews, and this is just a stroke of luck, you know. And both of the reviews were 3 stars, which is fine. I'll take that.
That's good. First year up, that's good.
First year up hadn't a clue, and the one from the Skinny, like there was good pull quotes in it. The one from I still use some of the quotes from it. Like the one from Broadway Baby said something like solid observational material or something, or you know, excellent. Or it was a nice quote. And then the one from the Skinny said something along the lines of, I remember it now. High quality observational material. That's from, I'll have that. And that's from Broadway Baby. And the Skinny said something along the lines of, "This guy's got something." Oh. And it was like really nice. It was a really nice review. And and then that started sort of change things a little bit, because then I had the review. I existed, you know, on the scene a little bit, and then it was easier when I got back from Edinburgh. I'd made some friends when I was up there, but it was easier when I got back to London then to say like, "Oh, I'm a comedian. This is, you know, here's a link to my thing." You know, and so I started using that, and then slowly but surely started building up the gigs more and more. And then, the next year I didn't go to Edinburgh because I got sick again, unfortunately, with one of my balls. But it's fine. I still have it. I can still have kids and everything. But it was a pain. It was a pain in the balls at the time. But no, missed out. Didn't go to Edinburgh that year. But then did a show called Nut Job the following year, which is about my balls. Because you've heard of the boob job. I've had a nut job, and then but that show actually, I wasn't. Even then, I wasn't good enough to handle. Like the show went fine, and I didn't get a single review. And I was like, "But this is why I worked really hard on the show. This is so much better than the last show." It's like, and then I realized how difficult it is in Edinburgh. But looking back in hindsight, like I've taken some of the material from that show and I've sort of spruced it up, because like I wasn't as good of a comedian as I am now to handle that.
You couldn't do it justice back then, like.
Yeah. So it's still there though in the bank. So I did that, and then I went up again the following year, did a show called Adult, which was about when's that going to happen. That's pretty much a theme in all of my shows. It's like I'm a fucking man-child. Then a show called All My Friends Are Dead, and I did kind of a sort of a run of that in a small room in 2017, and then 2018 I went up and did it in a bigger room and a better version of the show, and I did the PR thing and everything for it. I got some nice write-ups, some nice reviews for it, and it was a solid show. And then I did a show called If, which was about being in a band as a teenager, because I found my old band's demo. And
what kind of stuff did you play?
We played rock, man.
Yeah.
The name of the band was If.
Yes.
Yeah.
So catchy.
We were called If, and we were. Yeah, what happened was my parents were cleaning out my old bedroom because they were Airbnb-ing it, and underneath the wardrobe was a letter sent by registered post to me 20 years ago, unopened, and it was my band's demo. And the reason I'd sent it to myself was because that was an old-fashioned way of copywriting your music. You didn't open it. And the reason we'd done that is because we were sending the demo to Larry Mullen, the drummer from U2, and I thought, lads, we need to fucking protect ourselves because of U2. So I have that film. I filmed that show in the Bill Murray, the Angel in Bill Murray, the Bill Murray Angel Comedy Club in Angel in London, and I filmed that 2 years ago, and it came out pretty good. And I changed it up, because I loved the whole theme, and I changed it up because some things had happened My dad had died then, and I didn't want to write a brand new Edinburgh show last year, so I took the crux of that show and made it more about, and I put in some stuff about the balls, some stuff about the dad, and and it actually worked so much, so well in the show. So I did that. But the 2018 version of the show I filmed, like I said, and it's now up on my website. So if anyone wants to watch it, they can.
I'll put the link in the show notes. Brilliant.
I put it up there just the other day, actually. So I have a whole load of stuff on the website if you want to see any clips, but that whole show is available, and you have to, for a small fee, you can watch the whole show. I figured because stand-up comedy is in trouble for the next while, there should be, or there will hopefully be other outlets to maybe getting yourself seen or out there, and
people are still going to want stand-up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so, and I think as well, it's a massive chunk of my income is now just disappeared. So it's like maybe a way of maybe clawing a little bit of it back. Like, it's a solid show and it's fun. So, and it's well shot. We filmed it one night in as I said, in the Bill Murray in Angel, and it was tough to film because the gigs there are brilliant. Absolutely wonderful place to do a gig if you can ever get over, or to go just and watch. But we did it. It was at 9:30 on a Wednesday night, so it was tough to get people in. Because believe it or not, I'm not very famous, but but we got a few in, and it was great crack. And the show itself came out really well. So yeah, if you want to watch that, you can. But
I did a gig. It's just popped into my head. I did a gig in the Bill Murray one night, and there was a very nice. Everybody was very, very nice, but there was a girl. I'd never seen this in my life. She was training to be an MC on the night prior, because I got there quite early, and they were the chap that runs it was teaching her how to approach the microphone for the 5-minute call, and how to flick on and off the lights in tune with the music, and then run onto the stage when the show was actually kicking off. And I found this fucking hilarious, because I thought they were messing, right? I thought this was some over the top, fucking like a scene from The Office, but it wasn't. Verbatim and absolutely as per move. That's exactly how he kicked off the show that night. And I remember I was like, fuck, they're either really advanced here or that girl and I saw her. She performed that night and she was brilliant. I can't remember her name. Helen was her name. Very nice girl. She was very, very good that night. But was it
Helen Bauer? Because she's doing very well. She's doing really well now. She's excellent. Yeah, they're a great little club. And it's quite a community feel to it. And it's quite sought after to get in there, I think. But once you get in there a little bit, and it's a great gig. It's if you can't do well in that room, you need to give up doing comedy, basically. Yeah. Now it's not a complete giveaway. Some nights are harder than others, but if you're not delivering in that room, then there's not really much hope for you, kind of thing. Yeah. So Edinburgh, then I did last year as well, and so I've done Edinburgh like 7 runs, and I ran a show up there as well.
It's been knocked on the head this year, hasn't it? A lot of comedians fucking scratching their balls this August.
Yeah. So it takes the pressure off in one way, because it means you don't have to work towards the show, but it's kind of a good thing to have that pressure. That's why I've done it for so many years, to have something in the diary, because you know yourself with the stand-up, you don't have very much control. Like, you can only do so much admin, pushing for gigs and that kind of thing. But with Edinburgh, at least, you have something that's definitely happening in the diary that you can work towards. And, if you're lucky, you might make a few quid, but you'll also meet people and get to do a whole load of gigs. And then by the end of it, no matter who you are, you're better. After a month of it, like, you're a better comedian. But yeah, I'm not going up this year, and I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to try and do more content. I'll be making those tiny hands videos of you.
I wanted to get onto that, but before that, just before we get off of Edinburgh, and I just have to voice it, because I remember having a drink with you in Finnegan's Wake one time, and I was so desperately needed that drink. It was like 4:00 in the afternoon or something. I don't know if you remember me telling you about the show I had just witnessed. It was basically this duo. They were doing a split show, and I'd gone in there early because I don't know why, I'd gone in there early, and this chap comes up to me and says, would you come in and see our show? I went, I'm a comic. Hey, do you know what? I will, because he's such a nice chap. And he went on stage and did half an hour about of spoken word about his body dysmorphia and bulimia, male bulimia, and brought her on stage. And she was very funny for 4.5 minutes. And then pulled the handbrake and went straight into the horrendous death of her boyfriend, and did the remaining 25.5 minutes on the sadness that surrounded this. They made me sit up the front, and there was 3 people sitting at the back in a very small room.
Yes, I do remember.
And then, because they told me it was comedy, I was full sure I was supposed to laugh at spots. So I'm trying to chuckle along. What is supposed to be? Oh, my!
And then he slipped away. He slipped away. You know, he slipped away in front of his family. Oh, sorry.
And I remember meeting you for a drink, and I was just in the fucking horrors. I was like, fuck.
But that's the thing you did. Like, that's a very Edinburgh thing, though, isn't it? Like, I mean, I've done it myself. I did a show about bowel cancer. I mentioned the dad dying last year, but like I said, I wasn't with the ball show, no nut job show. I didn't have the tools to do that justice, and you know. So you're seeing a show that's a split show, which means that people are not very good yet. And they're tackling these really heavy, like, you have to be so careful when you're doing those kind of things. Like, because, people forget, particularly in Edinburgh, like, it's supposed to be fucking funny. Like, you know.
Not therapy.
Like, it doesn't have to be therapy. Yeah, exactly. Like, yes, have a story, have a message if you want. But, I mean, do ultimately remember that the whole notion, the whole goal is to be funny. Do you remember the time, I was thinking about this morning, actually, when you and I had been booked to do
Leicester.
Yeah, the Irish show in Leicester, and for during the festival there. And I have to say, we were accidentally very unprofessional. If by accident, we accidentally had several pints. Because we both got excited about the whole, good to see you, look over a drink. And next thing you know, I think we must have 3 or 4 pints, then went for a bit of food, and then it was like, I'm going to go back to the hotel for a nap. I'll see you at the gig.
Yeah.
And my phone is ringing off the hook, and I wake up like, ugh, and then you're like, where are you? And I'm like, I'm just in the hotel. And I look at my watch, and I'm like, oh, bollocks. I'm running now to the gig. I'm running. And we get down. I'm like, we need to tell them. Anyway, we get down there, and they'd started, we were half an hour late.
Yeah.
For this gig. I was kind of hungover at this point. Like, that's how far gone it had been.
We pulled off a good show, though.
It went grand in the end. Yeah, they got their money's worth.
They did.
Unbelievable.
I think the follow-up, did we do 2 nights?
Yes, there was 2 nights. Yeah, wasn't there?
And there was. And the following night, there was supposed to be another.
Yeah,
Elder Tirch, she didn't come. I don't know. Maybe she slept in the hotel as well. I don't fucking know. But I do remember the drink was really cheap, and we felt like kings. Because it was like, they were like £2.
This wasn't like when we were 18 or something. This is 2 men in their 30s who know best.
We're in this hippish old fucking bars that you wouldn't fucking bring a gun into. But because the pints were £2, we just totally forgot that we were actually there to fucking perform later on that night. But,
actually do a job, a professional job, and get paid for it.
We fucking did it in the end.
We did it though, but I think that's because of all the Edinburghs and all the experience in the background. Because coming up in the beginning, you're just dreaming of getting a paid gig, you know, just the dream of it. And then to get one, I'd be like, ew, I'm going to go in the piss.
It's a story as old as time.
It is, but it takes. That's the other thing about the stand-up is you see a lot of people who are starting now, and they're getting very concerned about being paid and things like and. I don't know about you, but for me at the beginning, I wasn't as concerned about being paid. I knew I wasn't going to be paid for a lot. I just knew it wasn't.
I felt like the luckiest bloke in the fucking world because I was started off down in Cork and there was a small little comedy club and they put me on every single Saturday night because there wasn't a lot of comedians going around and I pretty much do the same set and there'd be little bits get added to it or whatever. But it was because it was part of my mates, a gang of us, our regime. Whereas I would go in and do 5 to 7 minutes in this place. Then we'd stay on for at least a half. And of course, your man was delighted. All the lads were paying their tenner in. And the lad who was run it, Lord of Mercy on him, Billy Anderson, the late great Billy Anderson, who was running, he was fucking delighted. Because a dozen of us, he was guaranteed at least 100 quid in fucking ticket money when he put me on. So he wasn't. I didn't ask him for any money because I wasn't fully sure how it came about. I was like, I was like, well, I figured there's no fucking way I was due anything anyway for my 5/7/10 minutes when it would go really, really, really well. But I can't even remember. I think City Limits, I think he gave me a couple of quid, like 20 quid. And I remember getting that going. I just got that for talking. I got that for talking. Sweet Jesus.
Yeah, I the first time I was ever paid, it was €20, and I think it was about my 15th gig or something, maybe a bit less than that. I was doing a sort of a middle spot in Anshaw, and Jonathan, who works there, after the gig goes, "Here you go, man," and I was just like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, it's 20 for," and I was like, "Oh yeah, of course, cool." I couldn't believe it, No, but I always, don't get me wrong, I always wanted to be paid ultimately, but I just didn't think because the economics of it very, it's there's way too many, but there's a lot of comedian and way too few gigs. There's already lads who are at the top of the game, so getting to a point of getting paid is going to take a very long time. Everything for me anyway has been a slow burn. The only things that have made a difference is when I've gone and done Edinburgh or that kind of thing, but in terms of actually getting professional clubs to getting enough gigs to actually live on, that has taken, about 7 years before I could string them together properly. You know what I mean?
Tell me more about the tiny hands. I need to know more because they make me so happy. I had a pair of them and I'm after losing them. Do you have them with you there? Could I see them?
I don't have them with me. I can get them. Basically,
this won't be for the benefit of the podcast people, but they just make me so happy.
Do you want me to get them? I'll get them.
Yeah, if you would, please. I could hear your feet running down the stairs. So in my head, I imagine you tiny feet as well.
That's because I still got my headphone mics in. So this is them. Tiny hands.
I fucking love those tiny hands.
So all you do is you put them just on your finger like that, and then you get your. So just act like it's normal. Yeah. What are we going to do here, Tom? That's a good idea.
Have you worn them down the pub when the pubs were open and just said nothing, just to see onlookers?
Yes, of course. That was one of the first things I did.
Okay, because of course. Because London, I remember I was doing, what was the name of the Comedy Cafe? I remember talking. I said, this place, there was a guy with his feet on the stage wearing flip-flops. And I said, London is such a fantastic fucking place. You could set fire to your fucking head and walk. This is before anybody actually did set fire to their head or do anything like that. There was terrorist attacks.
Sure.
With fucking a parrot on your fucking shoulder. And nobody would look strangely at you. And I pointed out across, because Shoreditch is so hipster, that there was a guy literally across the road outside a cafe who had a typewriter, an oldie worldy typewriter modified to sit his fucking iPad in where the keys would tap his iPad rather than just a cunt. And I said, and now I've got this cunt with fucking flip-flops on the fucking stage. None of you said a word. There's been 5 acts on here and nobody said a word. And you can see the guy tucking in his flip. And I think I said something. I said, you're either a fucking the hardest bastard in London or a fucking idiot, because you should, with the volume of people around here, you should be all wearing steel toe caps.
Oh, of course.
I remember thinking that it's like in these, ironically, in highly densely populated places that you could probably get away and people would be almost frightened to say something. Not like the small town attitude where you go, what's with the fucking hands?
Yeah. Here, what are you doing there? Is that shoes? Is this? You think you're great? But I think it's particularly jarring to Irish people because, you can't do anything in Ireland. Small towns, if you were walking down Grafton Street with the wrong hat on, somebody is going to say something to you. Like you could walk into a hat shop, or you could go. You could talk to a Garda, and he'd be like, "What's going on with the hat?" There'd be some little scroat coming up to you, going, "Hey, fucking go with your hat." You can't. you're not allowed in Ireland. Whereas here, people just don't care. There's too many people going on. They've only got their own crap going on, which is refreshing in one way, but it's quite isolating in another. Because particularly if you're, I think, like me, which you are in some ways, in the sense that, you see some weirdo, go, look at the fucking state of that. And everyone else looks at you like you're the weirdo for pointing it out. But no, the tiny hand thing, very simple, came out. Like, I don't know if it's the most original thing in the world, but they were selling them in a bookshop, and I was there with my girlfriend, and I just put my little tiny hand on her shoulder after buying them, and it scared the shit out of her, and she started laughing. So I was on a plane, I was going to a gig I bought them just before I was going to a gig in Dubai, believe it or not. I was doing a few gigs over there, and I booked that. Some woman got in touch with me and I got offered these gigs. It was great. So I'd never been to Dubai before. Couple of nights, couple of gigs, really crazy place, very hot. Who'd have thought a desert could be so hot? Got out there, but on the way there, we were flying. It was me and Keith Farnham, and we weren't sitting next to each other. I ended up having a few, free drinks. Jesus, this is a very drink heavy podcast, by the way. But there's a few drinks and ended up having a few, and then I just decided to film with the tiny hands because I'd done one other film with it. I'd made some food. I'd made some guacamole with the tiny hands, and people thought it was funny. So I just thought I'll just make a few more things, because the whole joke is that I don't mention at any point that these are tiny hands.
Yes,
and it's like, and they just talk
POV for anybody who hasn't seen it. It's point of view, like, and but you're narrating over it so calmly. I love that, like.
I just talk as if I'm just a normal person doing a normal thing, and this is just a normal video. Like almost, it's almost inspiring, except it's not.
It's a total piss take up for cunts trying to. So guys, here we are. Here's the superstar of the meal, and these tiny hands. Of course. I did the same thing with swearing. To see could I squeeze in more swear words into a sentence that were naturally possible.
I have no doubt you achieved that.
I did.
I was on the plane, and I decided to do it on the plane, and the air hostess came over, and people were like, the woman sitting next to me was like, "What are you doing?" And I showed her the guacamole video, and she started laughing. So next thing you know, I'm filming myself on the plane, and then I'm getting my food and stuff, and then I made a little video of it, and I made a video of how to use the bathroom on the plane, and then I just started making these little things, and people started like enjoying them and stuff, and then I misplaced them for a while, and then I found them again, and then I kind of just moved on to other things. But recently, since the lockdown has started, a couple of people said, "Why don't you make a few more of those things?" And I don't know about you, but putting stand-up clips on social media is all well and good, but there's only so much. I think that the tiny hands thing, because it's so fucking stupid.
That's what people want. That's what people want. People want to go to stand-up. I've put up stand-up, and it's gotten, like
little bits. Like, you're fine. Some bits can go great. I think I've seen some of your stuff online, and it's fine, but you can't overdo it, because And if they want to go and see a full show, they can go say to your website and download the show like they kind of might. But the tiny hands thing is it's also, you're not burning material. It's just, you can do something as simple as like taking your headphones out with tiny hands, so I decided I was going to do one every day or two and just put it up, and I started a tiny hands archive on my website as well, just to put them up there, so if anyone wants to have a look. So like, there's a game, like, I'm trying to think of more ideas, so I'm going to shave the beard off with them, I think, at some point. Because I want to get rid of it anyway, so.
The massage one got me particularly happy. It was fucking ludicrous. Those tables are hard enough to open those massage tables are hard enough to open with a fucking regular pair of hands. The fact that he did it, your little hands did it, no problem. And described it as being no problem. It's like with the tiniest hands ever.
Yeah, and then I made one where I was playing piano, and then the other, it's just, I put them up, and then sometimes they don't really get any kind of likes or anything like that, and I start thinking to myself, am I just being one of those annoying wankers now that's just over posting? And then I think, do you know what, I am, but I enjoy actually having the project of making the video. I actually just enjoy the little process of doing it and editing it together and sticking it up. So I actually couldn't care less. But I know that several people like it, so I'll keep doing it for the laugh. But it's been fun, so I'm gonna stick with it. I don't know how much longer. I might just get bored of it myself, to be honest. But or I'll maybe saturate the tiny hand market a bit too much, But there's going to be more to come, I think. Because I'm trying to do, I don't know about you, but you're doing the podcast and a few other things, I'm sure. But you have to kind of try and diversify a little bit. Not to say that I'd make any money out of tiny hands. It's just something to put up there, maybe direct.
You got to stay creative. You have to stay creating something, or you'll go fucking bananas. So you have to create something, even if it is just tiny hands or whatever. But like the happiness I get of just editing a podcast, I don't know if it's happiness, but just it's almost like satisfaction. You're like, I created a thing and puts it out, you know. So like we were talking beforehand, every cunt and their mother now has a fucking podcast. I mean, the only thing going, you know, I was a steady listenership, and it's been on the go 3.5 years. So I'm not saying I did it before it was cool, but at least in my head I can go, I don't give a fuck, because I was doing it, you know, long before. So I have an established listenership now, at least. But it still is, you know, there's, I would say 99% of people that listen to this on a weekly basis have never seen me do stand-up. This is for them. You know what I mean? So it's just a different medium for people who couldn't be arsed going to a theatre.
That's the thing you have to, like, I have to remember, and you have to remember, everyone does. Like, it's I'm sure you're like me in that on Facebook and stuff, you're friends with just loads of comedians, and it feels like everyone's doing it. But the reality is not everyone's a fucking comedian. Do you know what I mean? And not everyone's creating stuff. You're just in a world where you've got a lot of people putting out a lot of content, you know? So yeah, keep doing it. I'm trying to. I started a blog because I built a new website recently, and I like it. It was like you just said with the podcast thing. It's like I felt like I did something, and like it sort of felt good. So a mate of mine is into his SEO and stuff, and he's like, "You need to start doing a blog." Now, I'm about fucking 15 years too late for that, but I thought, yeah, why not? Just to have a little, maybe not every day, but every few days. So I started once a day, and I actually found it quite therapeutic, like, and enjoyed it. So I'll do that as well. And I'm trying to write a script thing, but I find writing scripts at the moment very difficult because I can't really think straight or something. Like, and that's why Tiny Hands is so perfect, because it's so short and stupid.
Yeah, there's a beautiful silliness to it that you don't have to worry about the fucking beginning, middle, and end, really. Like, where's the story going with these tiny hands? No, I'm going to have crack doing an everyday thing. Like, you made a curry there one day, and I was just so happy. I was like, look at him there with his tiny hands.
That was one of the first ones, actually. I think it was called the stream, before they got the body. I want to do more cooking with it, actually. That's a good one, because it always, like, I did one that was just the other day that was just eating a mandarin. That's all it was, just eating a mandarin, and it's just fucking funny.
For anybody, this isn't any kind of spoiler alert. People will go have a look at regardless, but there's a self-defense one that just came out. It's absolutely beautiful. So, do you want to? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, yes, of course. Well, you were in America and you got invited onto fans of Curb Your Enthusiasm. Would be fucking sick. Listen to this.
Yeah, myself and the my girlfriend's been friends with Jeff Garn for a few years from Curb, and he was over in London two year and a half ago now. She's Christmas 2017 doing 2 weeks at the Soho Theatre, and she was one of the support acts, and we went out for dinner, and I couldn't believe it. Got to meet Jeff Garland, and he was very nice. And the following day he asked me did I want to be one of the openers as well, because the main person he had was stuck in the States for a week. So I got to open as well for him at the Soho Theatre for a week, and it was brilliant. It was brilliant. It's just like an amazing experience. Only have to do the 5 minutes every night or whatever, but getting to do that was one of those sort of preparation meets opportunity moments. Yes. Kind of thing. Like, I was nervous and stuff, but I was kind of ready to do it. And then, we got on really well. And the following summer, he was over again, and he just said, "Hey, do you want to come over when we're filming Curb, and we can visit the set and do all that stuff, and you can stay in my house?" So he let us come over. He gave us a place to stay for a while, and yeah, next thing you know, we're he's just been amazing. He's like, "I'm going to help you in your career." So he's done a fair bit.
Nobody does that. That's incredible.
I'm extremely lucky to have met him, and he has been extremely generous. Like nobody does it. I don't know why, but I think maybe he's one of those guys that's done a lot already, and maybe this gives him a buzz or whatever. But he's been very cool and very kind and very supportive. So that's been lucky that happened. And we were planning to go over this year. Like I was telling you earlier, we were supposed to go over, but unfortunately, circumstances changed with the girlfriend's family. Her mother was sick, so We had to not go, and it turns out that was probably the right decision considering coronavirus is happening. I mean, had we gone, we would have been sitting on our holes, so at least it's better to sit in your hole back here, I suppose. But yeah, the plan is ultimately to, I think, go over to the States and maybe give it a crack over there. But in the meantime, I'm just going to keep making tiny hands videos, try and do more gigs. I'm now in with a few bigger clubs, so that's good once that gets back going again, and then just keep trucking on. What are your plans, very quickly?
All going according to plan. Well, there was to be another play starting in June, running for 2 months, and which our fuck knows about that now, but Caveman is coming back. We've booked out the first 3 weekends of the Liberty Hall Theatre in September, so wow. who fucking knows? And then it's the tour of the country.
So you don't own that show?
No, that's not my show. Caveman is huge. Caveman has been in 44 countries. It's been everywhere, and it was in Ireland years ago. Simon Delaney was Caveman back.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 2007, I think.
That's just been going gangbusters, isn't it? Like, that's amazing.
The guy that owns it is so rich, it's not even fucking funny. Like, now he's sold the rights to it. He rents the rights to it to an Icelandic guy who has the world rights outside of America. And he just gives him one big fat check every Christmas.
Right.
Because will the theatre situation be back right by September? Who knows? I mean, please God, it will. We don't.
Well, what are we looking at? You know, the antibody thing. If we're all going to be tested for antibodies, and with a bit of luck, a lot more people have had it and have been asymptomatic, and then can get on with life. Other than that, it's going to be the vaccine if that happens. Hopefully it does, and hopefully it happens soon, because I don't know if things I think things will start to drip into normality again in the next few months. They have to. But in terms of big public gatherings, like going to see a play or going to see stand-up, and also, if you think about it this way, particularly with stand-up, the psychological impact, like, are you really want to go and sit in a room and be quiet? Or are you going to want to go and hang out with the lads in the pub for the first time in months? Do you know what I mean? Or will you have the money to be stand-up?
Yeah, will you have the money? And also, I suppose the other side of it is, I guess people will maybe get that out of their system from the get-go. Like, the hope is that people are going to be yearning for live entertainment. That's the hope. But I'm not a psychologist on human behaviour. The hope is, I mean, this is a 400-seater. We booked 8 nights over September. And then, including, they're going to be filling in between all of that, between then and December, with sites or theatres all over the country.
And that must be great, though, for you, just as an act, as an individual, like, you know, because I assume you're doing a lot of promotion for it, and people are getting the face out there a lot as well. So,
oh yeah, I mean, they
which is great news for you, bad news for people who don't want to see your face.
But this is it. This is exactly it. But do I get, much like you and your possible criticisms of Tiny Hands, you have to just absolutely tell it.
It's great. I'm delighted it's gone so well. I mean, apart from the coronavirus thing, but Jesus, I mean, you're really kicking ass with that anyway.
Yeah, it's a nice one to have gotten. And do you know what we talk about? You know, you mentioned about agents coming to see you and all these kind of things, and sometimes, and the straight route, there is no straight route to stand up, and there's also no straight route to. There's no book. People can tell you to advise you on all these things, like Jimmy Carr saying, "Go to fucking Edinburgh. You must go to Edinburgh." With Caveman, I know there was 9 other comedians seen for that,
oh really?
And I know of 2 of them, and I know I definitely wouldn't have the name that they would have. But work ethic was a big thing that came into it. Visible.
Hang on a second. Are you telling me that there's comedians out there that are lazy?
I'm holding my normal-sized hands up here and just saying this is what I was told. And that agents got in the way. They got in the way of slowing things down because of possible other things that might come in that might be more fruitful and all the rest of it. You know, whereas I was able to go, when do you want me? Yeah, no bother. Put it in the book.
Brilliant.
That's brilliant. So for a production,
there is no rule book. I mean, it's something that, I don't know about you. Do you have an agent now for comedy and stuff? No, I got very lucky. I got a voice agent a year or 2 ago. So I get to do some ads and voice and stuff like that. And by the way, I sound like I'm a name-dropping, fucking bragging wanker, by the way. So,
well, you have to state the facts. I've got radio ads too. I've gotten some radio, and it is more so through friends in the advertising agency rather than an actual agent. So I got a voiceover demo done, and it just every so often I'll go, "Tom, can you send that to me again?" Or such and such wants to hear you here.
Yeah,
and
great.
it's, so.
Well, I mean, all I'm saying is that when I got this thing, I didn't expect it to happen. I didn't know. I got a voice demo done, and I was lucky enough to get signed up by a great group of people. And it's not life-changing money per se, but it is in a way. Like, you suddenly start getting these little jobs that, pay nicely, and, it's an avenue I'd never thought of going down properly before. But what is interesting is it's a different world when you have proper representation like that. It doesn't feel like much of a struggle. So I've been, like a lot of comedians, like worried and stressed about agents and stuff, and kind of disappointed, and I find it quite difficult not having one. But I've also made the decision a couple of years ago, about 2 or 3 years ago. I made the decision. I still worry about it. I still get pissed off sometimes about it, but because the truth is, I know it's a different world if you've got a good one. You are getting opportunities that you wouldn't get on your own because of access and stuff. But I made the decision, like I said, about 3 years ago now, to just try and stop worrying about it, and to just focus on doing stuff and just keeping busy and just working hard at getting better. And then eventually they'll come along. And if they don't, it doesn't matter, because you'll put yourself in a position where you've got you like all these bits of work are coming in, and yeah, it was a good decision to make, because it did change things a lot for me. Like, it's only in the past 2 or 3 years that things have sort of really picked up, but it's from the not worrying about these lads,
That's the big thing, because if you are being told that it is route A, and you worry that you're not on route A, but what you don't realize is that you're building up a savage back catalogue for if route A ever happens, great stuff, but you'll probably find yourself just as far down the road anyway, just like you have.
Well, that's the thing. And that's the thing. There is no one way of doing it. But take something like the Vodafone Comedy Festival. I've never done it, and I'd love to do it. And the reason is, I've seen, all my friends do it, and and it's like, it's sort of a rite of passage as well. And it's just that kind of thing. It's like, Christ, that's frustrating. But then you chat to lads who've done it, and it's like, we didn't get paid much, and no one gave a fuck, So it's like, I suppose it doesn't. So then just keep the head down and just focus on doing your own thing, and eventually those lads will come around as well a bit more. The one thing I would say about that is, I've had my uncle ring me up out of the blue, going, "Well, I see that all the top comedians are. Why aren't you coming over? Like, why aren't you?" And you're just like, "Oh, because I haven't gotten booked for it." And there, well, you mustn't be good enough. And you're just like, "Oh, thanks, but thanks for."
That's the very Irish thing, isn't it? Like, you know what I mean? You want to, like, somebody well known I had on the podcast, I can't remember, and essentially they'd said they weren't really respected at all. Like, lads who have done huge gigs abroad and around the country, but unless they've done well in their local town, even, you still have that shit, huh? And it's like, are you fucking kidding me? I'm fucking able to put food on the table. I'm doing all right. I'm still alive.
That is something that's interesting about living here, and it's a difference that isn't. It's in Ireland. Like, here, you do a good gig and you come off stage, and people will either say nothing to you, or you might say someone go, "Oh, that was great," or whatever, Whereas in Ireland, like, I remember doing last time I was doing the International, this woman came up to me and said, just at the bar downstairs in the Inter, she goes, "Oh, that was very funny." And I was like, "Oh, thanks very much." And she goes, "You couldn't be doing this for a living." Yeah. And I just went, I actually kind of am at the moment. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't know if I call it survival, not really a living. But she goes, "It's not that. It's not. Couldn't be doing this." And I go, "Right." And she goes, "But what do you really do?" And I was like, "No, I'm doing this." She goes, I thought you were funny, but what do you really do?" And it's like, what the fuck is wrong with people?
Yeah, I only got it a couple of weeks ago. It was one of the last gigs I did. It was here it was down in Wicklow Town, packed venue, absolutely packed. There was 2 acts, and I was hosting it. And a woman had said it to me, like, it was a fucking cracker of a night. They were a great audience. And I remember a woman saying it to me, she was put in a polite way. She couldn't rap it. She had sat through the whole gig and tried to work out everybody's fee and the numbers of people. And had you worked it out, you would have went, actually, yeah, they're all making really good money on a 2-hour show. But she was looking, going, and this is what you just do this, do you? I was like, yeah, I just do this. Same as ways you do what you do. I said, "What do you do?" She goes, I'm a secretary in the school. And I went, just like that. It's a job.
I suppose it's fair enough, like, because people look at it and they go, "It's comedy, like it's funny." Particularly Irish people, because we are funny. To be honest, we are funny.
Yeah, that's the reality.
The sad reality is we're funny and we say what we think. That's not something that I find about these lads over here. They don't really.
No.
And I'm going out with one of them.
One of those lads.
she's yes, no, but she says what she thinks. To be fair, but it's just an interesting dynamic. I do miss Ireland though, but I don't know if I want to settle down here. Ultimately, I realize we're going over time now. I don't know about settling down over here. Like, I like English people. I don't know if I want to own one.
Yes.
If you know what I mean. I think it might annoy me if my kid was to have that. Imagine your kid having like, "Oh, hello, father."
I'm already worried about my kid having a fucking strong Wicklow accent.
Oh, for God's sake! I'm so sorry, Tom.
Your
father, Daddy. Oh, Jesus! Like a stiff drink every time your kid tries to talk to you. Anyway, yes, let's leave it there. Sorry, I fucking could talk for Ireland, as you can tell. I think I just needed to get it out of my system. Talking.
This is good. This has been therapy. I feel like you owe me some money after that.
Sure, no problem. I'll make you. I'll make a Tiny Hands video for you. But yeah, thanks for having me on. It's been fun.
Where are you most frequently online? Where do you want people to go? Other than the link, I'll put the link of your website so people can go watch your video, download his video, please. It's look, you gotta get into it. The people that are listening to this are sound. I don't get mates of mine who have podcasts. The amount of fucking squaring up of statements that were made on their previous podcasts or addressing cunts that have gone, I think you'll find. I get none of that. No cunts really listen to this. Or if they do, they're not bothered fucking writing to me. Anyway, that's for sure. All I get is soundskins listen to this thing. So,
I mean, yeah, who would bother correcting? Anyway, so if anyone's listening and is interested in watching my comedy show, it's on my website, conordrum.com. That's CONO or drum.com. The link will be up there. There's a whole load of stuff up there. There's a blog, there's clips, and there's a whole collection of Tiny Hands videos. But in terms of social media, I'm at Conor Drum on Twitter, on Facebook, and on Instagram, and recently TikTok. I don't know if you're using that one. But,
no, I downloaded it months ago, but I have not spent the time to. No,
I just basically post most of my things on all of those because I have the time at the moment, like most of us. So, and without kids to look after, it's made us. Yeah, I've no excuse. So, yeah, if you're on Twitter, give us a follow. That would be great. And in fact, Twitter or Instagram, particularly Twitter, I think at Conor Drum will be good. And other than that, I can't think of anything else.
Deadly. Well, we look forward to seeing your tiny hands shaving your face. I can't wait for that one.
That's going to be. I think it'll be good. I think I might injure myself though. Like that's the one thing.
That's why I can't wait to watch that one.
Maybe I'll have it up by the end of the week. We'll see.
Conor Drum, thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Tom.
And my thanks again to Conor. Fair play. That was good crack, wasn't it? Go to his website. You'll see it in the show notes down below. conordrum.com. Look at his videos. He's got bunches of them up there. He's got the tiny hand stuff, and if you are in need of a good dose of stand-up, why not sling a couple of pound and download his video and get it watched for yourselves. It's comedy. It's better than a lot of the shit you're going to see on Netflix. Trust me, it's actually good stand-up comedy. Right, if you're listening on iTunes, please give it a 5-star rating. I'll accept nothing less than that. A couple of weirdos have tainted the 99% of people's good work of putting 5 stars there. A couple of weirdos have put like 1 and 2. Nobody did a 3. I don't know who's doing a 4. What are you telling any of us? We all enjoy this podcast. Sound people listen to this podcast. What are you telling us? Like, you're a cunt if you put 1 or 2. What have you ever fucking done? But if you put 4, it's like, I liked it, but you know, I'm going to tell everybody else I liked it, but I didn't love it. 3? I don't know. Fair play. At least there's no 3 people out there. But we know there's a couple of wankers. Only a couple. The majority of people have put 5 stars. Thank you very much for that. Like I said, if it is iTunes, bang in the 5 stars. Why not write me a note? And you know what I've been loving is the notes coming from people. the fucking messages have been flooding in. People have time on their hands, and I'm fucking loving it. I've been replying to everybody. I do have there are 5 emails I do need to reply to. So if you're listening now, going, "Oh, that called fucking," I will be back to you tomorrow. Tomorrow I will be back to you, and I will get those emails written back to you. So I get back to everybody because I got time in my hands right now. So do keep messaging. I love that shit. Tell me where you're listening, how you're getting through it, and all the rest of it. And the thumbs up of support from everybody else and thanking me from the content. I'll bang out another Tom and Jerry show. Like I said, I have a Hard Enough podcast coming free. It'll be out a day or two early to the Patreons, of course, but there will be a Hard Enough podcast coming. It's a long way to Mayo. So trying to bridge the gap of internetness has been tougher than we thought. But sure, look, we'll get one done and we'll get it out to you. Thanks very much. Good luck and God bless and enjoy yourselves. Bye.